Okay, Susan, you ready to see your wedding photos?
Yes, thank you again. The sample proofs you sent of the reception looked great. I can't wait to see the rest.
Okay, here's the buffet. This is one I sent you.
It's beautiful. Pepper Moon did such a wonderful job.
Oh, there's one of the stuffed sweet African peppers. Those were mighty tasty, I might add. The shrimp and grits, pecan-coated chicken tenders, citrus glazed meatballs. I really love the way the little orange peel pieces capture the light on this one.
Yeah, it's nice, but are there any pictures of the actual wedding?
Oh, sure. Yeah, there's one of your dad looking at his watch.
While he's walking me down the aisle?
Must be getting hungry, because here he is digging into the signature mashed potatoes. Oh, and there's your grandparents just behind the cheesecake. Oh, they look happy.
These pictures are all of the catering. I'm not paying for these.
Oh, don't worry. The meal from Pepper Moon was payment enough.
If you have an event that needs catering, call Pepper Moon, the Triad's premier full-service catering company. 336-218-8858. That's 218-8858. On the web at peppermooncatering.com.
Okay, at the moment early on when the woman said, Pepper Moon did such a wonderful job, you lost the audience. And that's because that line is so totally false. No one would ever say that. No one would ever say Pepper Moon did such a wonderful job. You know, just like no one would say Buffalo Thunder Resort and Casinos Free Fall Music Fest, same thing.
What would they say?
You tell me. Have you been to a wedding? Ever? You're a sociable person. I've seen.
Only online.
Have you ever? What's the last thing?
You go, wow, great food.
What's the last public or family thing you went? Public thing you went to that you enjoyed?
Getting coffee up front was nice.
Seriously?
No, I guess you'd go great food.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
You wouldn't say, boy, XYZ Caterers sure provided us with great food.
Yeah.
Maybe under certain conditions you might say, but who you got the name of that place?
This caterer nailed it. Who are they?
Yeah, who the heck are they?
Right.
And then the person wouldn't say, why, it's XYZ Catering, the best in the tri-state area. You know, they'd say, oh, it's XYZ Catering. Oh, XYZ Catering, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
They're just not going to make the name of the sponsor the star of the story. And that doesn't serve them to have their name be the star of the story. The star of the story is the results that they deliver. And when you start out that way, the audience just tunes out. I mean, the audience doesn't consciously say, you are lying to me, but subconsciously, that's it. When we hear, there's actually one of the very few jokes I know. There's a guy named Lee Masters, who's a former radio guy, one of the guys who started MTV, and he was president of E! Entertainment Network. And Lee collects agent jokes, and most of them are not repeatable. This one is, where he says, and if you don't live in Hollywood, I don't know if this makes sense, but...
They try to substitute lawyer or something elsewhere.
Yeah, it might work.
Yeah.
You're right. But this is the joke from, well, if you don't think it's funny, Lee Masters. If you like it, me. So no, Lee tells the joke. This agent calls up a producer to pitch a project, and he's talking for about a minute or two. The agent's talking about a minute or two, and the producer interrupts, says, wait, hold it, wait a minute. You're lying to me. And the agent says, yeah, I know, but hear me out. Well, when the audience at least subliminally recognizes that they're not being told the truth, they tune out. And sometimes it's with the word choice, sometimes it's with the delivery. In radio advertising, usually it's both. You know, they're not going to say, wow, the International Radio Creative and Production Summit was great. You know, if you attended the summit one year and if you thought this year was okay or good, then you're probably, how was the summit? It was really good. You know, Nancy Wilson, she got up there, blah, blah, blah. You know, and O'Day did this weird improv thing, and, I didn't understand it. But their answer is not going to be all about the International Radio Creative and Production Summit. It's going to be about this thing they went to and the experience they had.
Results.
Results. Yeah. Now, I really doubt anyone could make that line believable, but the person delivering it is not convincing. There is no way we're going to believe that she is a bride talking about her wedding reception. And you might have forgotten that's who she was supposed to be. That was not a bride talking about her wedding reception. That was somebody who works at the radio station and was pulled into the production room. I liked it when finally she got so upset that there didn't seem to be any photos of the actual wedding. Probably because suddenly it became real. If you stuck with a story this long and you were able to follow the story, well, that makes sense if this idiot photographer, and it took me a while to figure out that he was a professional photographer. Was this a friend who took pictures? I was confused. But that's the first moment that I kind of liked, because that is how someone would react if they found out the photographer only took pictures of the food. But we can hear the writer trying to squeeze in all those mentions of the various catered dishes. And again, going back to what would you say outside? You know, would you say, yeah, I loved their whatever.
Szechuan chicken was outstanding.
Yes, and also their, you know, and oh, their so-and-so parfait was the piece de resistance. I mean, no, it's going to be that fish thing they served. God, that was really good. What is that? You know, this is how real people talk. You want the featured items to be a genuine part of the story. Okay. Was that story about those dishes? Or was the story supposed to be about the wonderful experience that your wedding guests will have as a result of you being smart enough to have hired that caterer? It's about your experience. It's not about the dishes they named. So why are we giving them so much airtime? Why are we shining the spotlight on those dishes? Well, the real reason is because the advertiser insisted. But in terms of creating a piece of advertising that works, why are we doing that? In terms of creating a story that communicates something and motivates people to act, why are we doing that? And the thing that you're really trying to sell, in this case the caterer, if you really want to present them as important and valuable and believable in the story, you don't shine a spotlight on their name when it's used. If I say, guys, I'm sorry I'm late for starting this. What happened is I ran downstairs, just a couple minutes, I ran downstairs to get a cold Diet Coke, and then I saw Nancy in the hallway, and we got to talking, and so I apologize for starting late. Okay. Diet Coke paid for that product placement, in theory, right? I mean, I didn't say I stopped for ice. Actually, I wouldn't have said cold.
No, I paid for that product placement because apparently I trumped the soda. Brought to you by BrainTracksAudio.com.
How sad is it when you're competitive with a diet soda? No, actually, and I sabotaged myself here. I momentarily didn't have enough confidence in the story I was telling because I added the word cold, and I wouldn't have said that. So that was the part of me that was just like when you wrote the spot, that was tempted to throw in an adjective, an extra word to really sell. I've never said to anybody, I'm sorry, I got to go get a cold Diet Coke. I have said many, many times, excuse me, I got to get Diet Coke. I've said that a lot of times in my life. I've never said I have to get a cold Diet Coke because in my mind I know the Diet Coke has to be cold. So again, you wouldn't say, I'm sorry I'm late, but I had to go downstairs to get an ice cold, refreshing Diet Coke, because that screams to everybody that it's bogus. But if I make it sound like the story is about me and Nancy were talking in the hallway, and I tell it so believably she thinks that she was the star, and I just happened to mention that I went to get a Diet Coke, the Diet Coke becomes the star. It becomes believable. It doesn't sound, hopefully, it doesn't sound fake. Structurally, this story consists of the photographer raving about the food. But when you have wedding guests or guests at any kind of social function, whom are you trying to impress? The photographer? Maybe the guests, right? Who cares what the photographer thought about the food you served? I mean, if you had a photographer, professional photographer whom you had paid, and he was going on and on listing all the dishes, wouldn't you say, excuse me, I have other things to do, can we just show me the proofs here? It doesn't make sense. It's an artifice that you grab to tell the story, and this is real common in radio advertising. It's, okay, what if the photographer was so enamored of the food that he goes on and he never took pictures of the bride and the groom? Well, that's cute, but that doesn't sell the catering service. That just says, get yourself a good photographer. And finally, you gave 2 calls to action. You gave a phone number and you gave a web address. And I will come to this person's defense. The person who submitted this included a cover note explaining that the client insisted on giving the phone number. And the person who wrote this said, I know it's a mistake. I tried to convince them, but they wanted both the phone number and the web address. So the writer gets no blame here. But you want to give a single call to action. Well, they got a phone number, they got a website, which one do you give? Well, if you're a catering company, you just ask the catering company, how do most of your clients contact you?
What's wrong with 2?
What's wrong with 2 is that, although it's counterintuitive, it seems logical that if you give people 2 or more choices, the more choices you give them modalities of responding, they can choose the one they prefer. And that sounds logical, but it's a fallacy. The reality is choice paralyzes response. Ooh. And this has been proven, and
that's interesting.
Even though there are people walking around who don't believe it. It's like a religious article of faith to them. Well, that can't be right. For 50 years now, they've been testing this, and every single time, here's what happens. Every time you give people a choice, you're requiring them to make a decision, and we don't like having to make decisions. So every time you require someone to make a decision, some people are just going to walk away. Ask them to make 2 decisions, okay? Now it's 2 squared. So although it does sound logical that the people who want to go online can go online, and the people who want to call can call, and the people who want to drop by can drop by, it sounds logical. In reality, it doesn't work that way. Choice paralyzes response. And so with a caterer, the fact is, if you hear about a good caterer and you want to contact them, everyone here probably would do the same thing. Okay, don't try to second guess me. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If you heard about a good caterer and you knew the name XYZ Catering in Santa Monica, but you didn't know how to contact them, what would you do? Just personally.
Google.
That's what people do. But Dan, what if they do want to call them to ask a specific question? Then they go online, they Google them, they get the phone number, and they call them. That's what they do. Huh. Now, if the way people make the purchase is to pick up the phone and call, then you give the phone number. For your free consultation, call to set up an appointment. For your free booklet, et cetera, oh, great. But then you don't say, or visit us online. And for the car dealer, you don't say, come test drive the all-new Prius, or visit us online at blah, 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 blah.com. Because now people think, well, let's see, I don't know, which do I want to do? So that's why.